Hello, this is Tom, aka Jevion here for Tabletop Tap Room, and today we are doing the final installment of Satanic Panic, the final chapter. But I debated calling it Satanic Panic, the Satanic Panic Strikes Back, or Return of the Satanic Panic. But in the end, I think we're going to call it the Satanic Panic, the Utah chapter, because it's going to focus on the state of Utah. Yeah, we're going there. But before I get too deep into this, let me just say thank you for watching the video. Thank you to my subscribers. And don't forget that like, subscribe, and bell icon. Help me build the channel. Now, yes, Utah. Let me do a full disclosure. Okay, number one, grew up Catholic, right? I have never had a LDS friend in the real world in meat space where you press flesh. Okay? So, limited exposure. Did study it in college, but I might not have been paying attention that day. There's nothing. It's the echo chamber in the file room in my brain for all the information on the LDS Church, which is Latter-day Saints, is how they like to refer to themselves. It's kind of considered gauche to call them Mormons, as I have now learned. My first LDS friends were through the internet. Number of co-creators who I collaborated with. In fact, one of them I used to joke that like the two of us were like the right and left sides of the same brain. You know, he'd be thinking, he'd come out with stuff and be like, yeah, that, it was like some of the most fruitful and fun collaboration I ever did was with this guy, and he's LDS. So I have LDS friends, but they're all through the internet. Those were my first LDS friends. So that's my first disclaimer, and so I'm probably going to get names of things wrong concerning, like I did a take on this video and I was referring to whoever was running the local LDS parish as the dude in charge, because I don't know what they call him, so I'm going to do some of that, and please, I do not mean it to be disrespectful. Just humor me and roll with it. It is not meant to be disrespectful if you happen to be LDS. Now, the other disclaimer is that actually a gamer friend who is LDS, Latter-day Saint, supplied me with a lot of links. He knew I was doing these videos on the Satanic Panic, and he's like, hey, are you aware of this? And he's sending me links and links and information and links and links, and just absolutely swamped me with information. And he might have actually gotten in trouble with his wife for it. But it was actually refreshing to see somebody going, look, this doesn't paint my church in a positive light, but you should be aware these stories are out there. And that was kind of refreshing that he was like, I'm LDS, but I'm not going to hide these stories. You should consider them. And I think, and I take it as a compliment that he considered me enough of an honest researcher to look at these things and not be like, see how bad the LDS. No, because my goal here is not to paint any particular church in a bad light, least of all the one that's going to be the topic of conversation today. So, Utah. I've never lived there. Okay, my impression is that there's one church that is kind of dominant in Utah, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And it's my impression, I could be wrong, but that dominant church has some pull, has some sway, has some influence. Not to say that they're political and they're part of the political structure, but they definitely, I think, have some political sway and pull. They got some moxie, right? So it stands to reason that when you've got a dominant church that has a lot of sway in a state, and then my impression of the rank and file within the Mormon church is that they're very earnest about their religion. So then you've got dominant church, lots of sway, and then you've got a sizable group of people within that. I'm not saying every Mormon is earnest or even every Mormon is really a good Mormon. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying I think there's a large rank and file who are very earnest about their religion. At least that's what I feel like I've encountered. They're very earnest about it. So you put all these things together. It's like a perfect storm that you're gonna get. You're gonna get this perfect storm that and over here blows the winds of the Satanic Panic, and it gets caught up in the perfect storm, and it becomes this cyclone where the Satanic Panic becomes this thing that swirls around and just keeps coming back around to bite the Mormons in the butt. And from what I could see from my studies, is it looks like it has just, look, the Satanic Panic has been discredited. Psychologists, social workers, they've discredited the satanic ritual abuse element that was their part of the Satanic Panic. They don't use hypnotism. They don't use recover memory. They put no stock in that anymore. That stuff is all considered out. But the Satanic Panic was built on that. And this sort of thing, it just keeps coming back. It just keeps coming back. So at the height of the Satanic Panic, 1985, lots of stuff going on. Remember, we did the history of the 80s and the Satanic Panic. The height of it, you've got the Macmillan child abuse case. I think at 85, the Nottingham, England stuff was still a little bit in the future. But it was going good here in the States, particularly with the Macmillan child care. And social workers, psychologists are testifying to Congress, and suddenly lots of money is being freed up by Congress for child abuse, for programs, which kind of had the pressure of, we got to keep telling these stories because, it's going from 4 million to a year later 7 million to 15 million. Boom, 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 boom. There's a little bit of a pressure there, financial incentive. We got to keep this thing going because it's freeing up the money. Woo-hoo. Money talks. Everything else walks. So, the 85, you had a mother brought her kids to a therapist called Barbara Snow. And Barbara Snow, after working with the kids a few times, suddenly the kids had recovered memories. And the recovered memories, it was involving the babysitter who was the daughter of a prominent church leader in the LDS church. And then other parents brought their kids because their kids had been babysat by this person. So then shortly after a few sessions, those kids have recovered memories. And it got out of hand. Well, you get law enforcement ends up getting involved in this and begins to investigate, and they're looking to prosecute, they're looking to charge someone, and one investigator is observing through two-way glass, through a two-way mirror, the Barbara Snow coaching children in what to say, coaching them in what to say. He observes this, and he's like, I can't put these kids on the stand. I can't use their testimony. It's suspect because they've been coached. And so he confronted her, and her excuse was, well, I have to build an environment in which it's safe for them to talk about this stuff. And so the way you apparently build an environment to make it safe, because, these kids have been threatened, so they don't feel safe so you have to build the environment. And the way you build the environment is you coach them. Tell them what to say. Sure. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Not, but that's what she did, and that was her excuse. There was an older child who, in like an hour session, she claimed that she was asked 50 times. Now, it's probably an exaggeration, maybe not 50 times, because that literally had to be every single minute. Did this guy touch you? Did this guy touch you? I mean, so eventually she said yes because she was afraid that this woman, Barbara Snow, was going to yell at her, start yelling at her. The child was in doubt, was not comfortable. Was apparently we were not creating a safe space for her to, admit that these things had happened, and she was actually scared. And she later revealed that to investigators, and so that was another nail in the coffin on Barbara Snow. So it's investigated, and they find it doesn't hold water. Okay, there's no corroborating evidence. Nothing substantiates these claims. So that goes nowhere. Now, Barbara Snow, remember that name, we're going to come back, because remember I said it's like a whirlwind, and it comes around, goes around. She's coming back to bite the LDS Church in the rear end again. So that is 85. 1990. The governor of the state of Utah actually appoints a board, because there's been enough whispers and stuff. Governor of Utah actually appoints a board to look into this, look into these accusations of satanic ritual abuse. And I think part of the purpose was to specifically look into, within the church. So on this board is law enforcement, psychologists, social workers, attorneys, members of the church, members of the church, members of government. There was actually an aide from Senator Orrin Hatch's office was on the board. And, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, this is how you do it. This is good. It's a multidisciplinary team, so that it's not a board of 6 social workers who are all nerding out on hypnotism and recovered memories, and then they just drive the car off the cliff. No, this is different voices with different focuses, because, if the social workers and the psychologists just want to go, drive the car off the cliff, you've got other people going, wait a minute, I got to ask the obvious question here that's being ignored. And that's what a multidisciplinary board will do. And that's what the governor of Utah did. So what he did was perfect. What he did was a good thing. Now, apparently they did their thing, and they really didn't find anything. I did some digging, and I could not find what they found. They didn't come out with anything like, oh my God, Satan is in charge of the church. They didn't come out with anything that I could find. So, and I think in part that was because it was multidisciplinary, and you had other voices going, wait a minute, I gotta ask the obvious question here. And, and that produces a good result when you have, multidisciplinary things going on. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing. I don't consider that a bad thing. I consider that was a good thing. And it doesn't appear that they found much. So moving on, shortly after that, you had the Pace Memorandum. Pace was I'm not sure what his exact position within the LDS Church was. He seems to be a high up there, muckety-muck. And he put out what was called the Pace Memorandum. And it was produced after he interviewed 60 people concerning their recovered memories of satanic ritual abuse within the church. And so these people named members of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, stake presidents, bishops, it's everybody. Missionaries. They just named, oh yeah, all these people are Satanists and they're hiding in the church. In fact, I was raped, in the church. This abuse happened in the church buildings. Because I know they they have temples, and then they have other buildings. I don't know. I mean, it's just like mad crazy corruption is what's alleged from these witnesses. And this was just circulated within the church, and then it leaked. And then it leaked to the news, it leaked to the public. And after it leaked to the public, you know, this guy Pace, I don't question his motives, because it seems to me from what I read was that he was like, look, I've looked at these 60 interviews and they're all saying the same thing. I can't completely discount it. But then when you get an actual real investigation with police investigators, they could not substantiate anything, because, you know, they're going to charge somebody with a crime. They got to say on June 12th, so and so took the kid into the church building and did, you know, and on that was on June 12th. The kid alleges that this happened, and they just happened to have been examined by a doctor on June 15th, and the doctor noted these injuries that would be indicative of the child being sodomized. You know, so that's what an investigator is going to look for. He's going to look for that kind of thing. And they found nothing. They could not substantiate any claim, because all the claims were based on recovered memories, which at the time is just largely done with hypnotism. So it's that went nowhere. That went nowhere. But I think the Pace memorandum has kind of lingered. It's a document produced by a church leader, completely discounted by investigators as vaporware. But I think it's lingered. I think it's kind of hung around some people's files, and you know, it gets looked at from time to time. Because my LDS friend, my gamer friend, was telling me that he was like up for something for priestly order, and the leader of the local church would not let him do the priestly order thing because he was a gamer and he played D&D. So he had to stop playing D&D for, like, I think he said 6 months, you know, play Traveler or something, whatever. And, you know, then he could do that. And of course now he plays D&D because you can't take it back. In 2005, there was a book written, Martha Beck, and it made allegations against Hugh Nimbley. And the book was titled Leaving the Saints, How I Lost the Mormons and Found My Faith. And it was controversial that she was sexually abused by her father, who was a prominent scholar in the LDS Church. Now, the problem with this is that it was something she had no memory of it until very, very late in life. And her 7 siblings and her mother all are like denying her story. So you have this recovered memory experience, and what? You're 7 siblings, okay? 7 siblings. Stop and think about that. Anybody is well placed to know what's going on. It's the siblings, okay? It's the siblings. So if the father was doing that, he's probably not doing it to one. He's probably doing it to multiple. You know, unless those 7 siblings are all boys, you know, but chances are no. So 7 siblings all categorically deny it. The mother denies it. So it's been very controversial. You had in the early 2000s, you had the Teal Swan case. Teal Swan had claimed uncovered repressed memories. And the person who helped her recover those repressed memories is none other than Barbara Snow. Remember, I said we're going to come back to her. So the police started looking into this and went, oh, not this one again. And because of Barbara Snow's involvement, they decided to not pursue it because of her past, suspect coaching kids to say things happened. And so this investigation went nowhere, and they could find no corroborating, substantiating evidence at all. That brings us to 2022, to this decade. They keep coming back. We're going to bite the Mormons in the butt. And you had an attorney race for county attorney, and two guys running. The sheriff has endorsed one guy, and all of a sudden there's satanic ritual abuse accusations against the other guy. And the sheriff opens up an investigation. Oh, we've got to open an investigation. So he opens an investigation, and that attorney calls foul. Claims it's political because the sheriff has endorsed the other attorney. So it has an appearance of impropriety on the part of the sheriff. But again, even though there's an investigation, there's no there. It's a nothing burger. Nothing's found. That's 2022. Fast forward to 2023, and we get somebody actually charged and arrested and going to court for satanic ritual abuse in Utah. Now, this is an interesting case because if this goes through the courts and he's convicted, then you will have finally in 2024 or 5, because these court cases never move fast at all. They kind of they can linger, like the CSR Wizards case, kind of lingering and it's moving slow. Get that court case some Dulcolax. It's moving slow. It's constipated. I expect this court case not going to move fast. The accusations in it are so serious, you can't possibly move fast on this. They got to take their time. Let me do the share screen. This is David Lee Hamlin. He has been arrested for satanic ritual abuse in the state of Utah. Charged and arrested. There was a change.org petition. People were signing to petition the court to not give him bail, to keep him behind bars. But I think he might have gotten bail. I think he could be out right now. Now, what has happened and what is actually determined in a court case is that in his divorce court case, in this particular divorce case, the judge did determine that he had sexually abused his daughters. That's what the two oldest daughters are alleging. Allegedly, is that he abused them. They're actually, if it's to be believed, alleging satanic ritual abuse, a cabal of people involving district attorneys and members of the church and lots of people. And, just fantastic stories. So this has the potential to be a documented case of satanic ritual abuse. The first one that I could find since the 80s. And it's taken all this time to find one. My gut tells me no. And there's a lot of red flags for me in this case. Now, I don't recommend you go digging into it. You will see some descriptions of things that you're going to need a gallon of bleach to pour through your brain afterwards. And there were 2 video links that were sent to me concerning this, and these were an interview by a husband and wife who I suspect their shtick is they like to criticize the LDS Church. That's kind of what I get is their shtick. And they were interviewing this investigator, journalist. I'm not sure what this guy is. He did not present himself as having law enforcement credentials. He presented himself as an investigator and claimed that he had access to the victim statements, the witness statements of the 2 daughters. So they interview him, and he's giving a curated snippets of those victim statements, and you just have to believe them. There's no you can go check it out over here. There's the victim statements where, I like to read firsthand documents for myself. And, look at it, go, oh, well, that was convincing, or no, I'm not buying that. You know, so it's curated statements. There's no evidence for me to go look at. And the guy's name is a problem because I suspect it's not his real name. He in the videos he went by the name Go L, 4 letters, Go and El, first and last name. Go L. Now that could be a real name because El is a Hebrew word. It's a generic name for God. So that's not outrageously crazy. Goel could legitimately be a Hebrew name. I don't know. But I looked him up. I went looking because, if I found that he had a bunch of conspiracy theory channels, I'd be like, okay, not buying his crap. So I went looking and I just couldn't find him. Now, he could be legit. He could be a legit journalist. He could be a legit researcher. I just couldn't find him. So that was a red flag. And he came out with some crazy stuff. Like he was asserting that there is an LDS Church of Satan, a Latter-day Saint Church of Satan. I've never heard of this. Now, like I said, I think I've said before, I've studied religion, world religions. I've studied cults. I think this would have fallen under the heading of cult. I've never heard of this before. In fact, I went to my pastor, graduated from seminary, and ran it by him. He says, that's a new one on me. And he'd never heard of it. So it's something I've never heard of. I can't find evidence for it on the web. And, but if there really was an LDS Church of Satan, would they publicize? I don't know. Probably not. But that's kind of a red flag. I can't find any evidence. Can't find the LDS Church condemning. You'd think if anybody would know if there was an LDS Church of Satan, it would be the actual LDS Church. Yeah, it's too many red flags there for me with these videos and this Go L guy. Why would he have access to the victim's statements? These things are so inflammatory. You've got this Hamlin guy. How are they going to pick a jury? That stuff out there. If the witness statements are out there, the victim statements are out there, they are beyond inflammatory. How do it would just poison the jury pool? How do you find a jury of his peers? I don't know. I don't know that the police would let these statements be out there. I don't understand. So there's a lot of red flags for me with this. And again, I come back to the story being told about David Lee Hamlin is classic 1980s Satanic Panic. It sounds like the script from Rosemary's Baby meets Damien meets The Exorcist. That's what it sounds like. Which is what all the other recovered memories sounded like. And all the other scares about the Satanic Panic. My favorite being, it's a Jewish Nazi doctor, and he's now running the CIA. Is the head of this satanic conspiracy, worldwide satanic domination. It comes off as crazy talk. Now, the important thing is that when you get outrageous claims, you have to have outrageous evidence. Okay? You have to have solid, outrageous evidence. Okay, we don't have that. We just have covered memories, stories, and stuff we can't confirm. And that's my gut feeling. So if this guy is guilty, I want to see him fry. If he's guilty. Okay, and I'm not going to determine he's guilty. A jury of his peers He's going to be tried in court. If he's guilty, I want to see him fry. I'm this. If he's guilty of half to whatever, he needs to go away. He's a bad person, and he needs to go away. That's got to be determined by a jury, or a bench trial with a judge if there's no jury. So, yeah, and on top of that, the district attorney, when David Lee Hamlin was arrested, apparently the district attorney, a lot of close family ties between David Lee Hamlin and the district attorney. So the district attorney did a press conference and made himself look guilty somehow. I mean, it's like, so that guy that district attorney has lost his job, and he's moved to Scotland, and he bought a Scottish castle. Because I guess that's what you do when you've been implicated in satanic ritual abuse and sexual abuse of children, is you go to Europe and hold up in a creepy castle. Makes total sense. Sure. But, that guy hasn't been charged. So I find the whole story by this guy Goel just suspect. And the fact that all the previous cases been investigated, nothing substantiated. My gut says no to this as well. Probably not. But I'm also kind of the look, let it run its course in court. Let it run its course. So it could be a documented case, but I don't think so, and it's got a ways to go with the court system. And also, it's not outrageous or unheard of that a father might sexually abuse his daughters without it actually being satanic. In the Nottingham case in England, the investigators, the social workers and the investigators perseverated on there must be satanic ritual abuse here. They went looking for it. They wasted time. They wasted money looking for satanic ritual abuse when there was plenty enough conventional evidence of conventional abuse. And they wasted time with the SRA. And that was one of the criticisms in that court case. Plenty evidence of conventional abuse. And they should have just stuck to that. But no. We must find Satan. We're looking for Satan. We know he's here. We're going to find him. They went looking and they didn't find him. And they got criticized for that. And I think that maybe this might be more of the same. He sounds like a bad guy if a judge found him guilty of abusing his daughter sexually. But now he's charged with satanic ritual abuse. So we got to watch this one play out. And I bring it up in the interest of intellectual honesty because I don't want somebody to go, you said it was overblown, but look, here's a court case. Yeah, I'm aware of the court case, but it still must work its way through the courts. There is zero connection to gaming. Thankfully, no connection to gaming. So, Mormons get a pass. The LDS Church gets a pass. So, I'm happy to report your Mormon friend is not a Satanist. So this is Tom for Tabletop Tap Room. Again, thanks for watching the video. This is our Satanic Panic, the Utah chapter, or the Satanic Return of the Satanic Panic, or the Satanic Panic Strikes Back, whichever you prefer. Or all of them together. And don't forget that like, subscribe, and bell icon. Help me build a channel. Keep on gaming. Don't worry. You're not going to hell for gaming. Okay, play a board game, play a war game, play an RPG. You even play D&D if you like. Play what you like. It's not Satanism.